Hey everybody, a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Yashwarrier and I'm the founder of BeatCurry. BeatCurry is on the mission to explore, experience and enjoy the different flavors of music. BeatCurry goes beyond all boundaries to discover new forms of music and curate unique experiences and information to all you music lovers. In this episode, I shall be interacting with a very well-known, eminent and an outstanding Palestinian Qanun artist, Firas Zreik. He has had his formal education in the Qanun and went ahead to study performance and jazz composition at the prestigious Berklee College of Music. He has also performed with some of the greatest maestros in today's time. Now, for those of you who don't know about this instrument, the Qanun is a string instrument that's played as a solo instrument or as a part of an entire ensemble. It's mainly seen in Middle Eastern countries, North and West Africa, Central Asia, and in some parts of Europe. Now here's something. What actually fascinates me the most about this instrument is the way how it's crafted and the way how it works. It very beautifully follows the Turkish or the Arabic system of music and has a very unique approach of creating those microtones. It's actually a delight to watch musicians who perform this instrument. More about this instrument from Firas.
Hello, Yash and BeatCurry. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and hi to all the listeners. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Firas. I would like to start this discussion by talking to you about this very versatile and culturally rooted musical instrument that you play, the Qanun. So, I would like you to take us through the new sounds that you can create from this instrument. And if you could share some of the features and the specialities of this instrument with all the listeners of this interview.
Yeah, well, the Qanun is a fantastic instrument with a great mechanism. It's I see it as a parallel to the piano in Western music, and I think it's the forefather of the harp. It is a form of a zither, where it has 81 strings, tripled, meaning each 3 strings produce the same sound, the same note. And the way you pluck it using your 2 hands, traditionally with a pick that you wear on your index finger with a ring.
Cool.
And in modern playing, we are able to use other fingers as well, like all 10 fingers, in order to get new sounds as arpeggios, strumming, and these kind of things. Now, I think it would be much better if you get a graphic illustration of the Qanun.
Please.
This is how it looks like. Yes. So there's this mechanism that's we call urab in Arabic, or you can refer it as mandals.
Right.
Should I take the screen down? So here, on each string we have 12 of them. So what do these do? Is basically they alter the pitch by shortening or elongating the string, meaning
right.
They do what the left finger does on a guitar, right? Or a sitar. So basically through them you can go between the chromatics. Like if this is do and this is re, like C to D, and you want to play the half step between them, which is C sharp in this case, then you have to raise 6 of those. What does that tell us is that each one of them is equal to 1/12 of a tone. So this is highly accurate and microtonal. I don't think there is another instrument on the planet that can produce such an articulate microtonal sound that is not random. So if you wanna listen to how each increment of this sound is gonna be something like that. So that was a whole step going up by increments of 1/12 of a tone, right? And it's super accurate. So in Arabic music, we have the microtonal system that mostly coordinates in quarter tones. So in order to move a quarter step, we raise 3 of those. So this is how the instrument functions. It has to be the right and left hand coordination between playing the melody and altering the pitch while doing so, right? And it has, it's a box by itself to produce a sound. It has leathers on the side I use synthetic leathers just so it doesn't get too affected by humidity and temperature when travel and stuff like that.
Right.
But traditionally speaking, they use the fish skin,
Correct.
and there's a bridge, and the bridge lays on these leathers,
Right.
and of course each string has an independent peg,
Correct.
meaning I have 81 of those. And they're made out of ebony for strong grasp. In the Arabic system, since we have the quarter system, we only have 4 of them traditionally,
Right.
while the Turkish have 12 of these. So this one specifically
Within
was
a
made
tone?
in Izmir. Yeah,
12 within a tone.
12 within a tone. Yeah. So if
Oh
just
my
to
God.
visualize, for those of us who aren't familiar with this, just to visualize this, if you look at the piano keyboard. And you
Right.
see a white key and a black key next to it.
Yeah.
It has to be like 12 like red keys in between to reach from here
Oh
to
my
there,
God.
right? From the one to another. So yeah, it's very microtonal, yet it's very articulate. There is nothing random about this, right?
Right.
And I think this mechanism is highly developed.
Wow, that was I guess that was so informative description that you gave about the musical instrument. When we look at vocalists or singers who follow the traditional Arabic or Turkish music system, are they also able to distinguish those microtones very independently?
Absolutely. And I think this is the main reason that I have a Turkish Qanun rather than an Arabic Qanun, although I prefer the Arabic sound.
Right.
I think that this mechanism with the 12 mandal can give you a more precise intonation that is
Right.
often used with vocalists, from the whole peninsula. Whether you go
Right.
to Turkey or Persia or even Egypt, when you hear Kulthum does this like a bend kind of thing, like a glissando within a half step.
Right.
It has to be
Right.
super articulate, and you cannot just follow the lead with one quarter tone. No, it has to be
Right,
super precise. And the same thing in traditional Carnatic music or Hindustani music. There's a lot of microtones, I'm assuming,
Right.
and even in non-Eastern traditions, you can find microtones in the performance practice rather than like a theoretical. For instance, bluegrass, in the US,
Yeah.
they use tons of microtones, whether it's fiddle or banjo, the way they bend it. I don't think they're aware of it, most of them.
Okay.
Well, the masters are, but most of them aren't. They're just playing it by ear. But it sounds highly microtonal to my ears.
Oh my
So microtonality is just a big spectrum that everybody deals with. And just because, the Western contemporary tradition uses the well-tempered clavier doesn't mean that, everybody follows that list.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely am very sensitive to this kind of vocal intonation when it comes to following a singer. Yeah.
So if I just had to generalize, the number of microtones within a tone, would it be equal to the number of levers that you have to tune it?
Yeah, it does. That's exactly it. On each string we have 12 of them.
Right.
And, the use of Arab and mandals, at least the way I use it,
Right.
it developed from the role of altering pitch to, doing all different dynamics, like vibrato, for instance. Right? Like a glissando. Or like... So you can rhythmically use the mandals. You can chromatically use the mandals. You can melodically use the mandals. So it's not just about altering the pitch. You can have them as sound effects, different sound effects and different dynamics and techniques
Right.
that other instruments have within their arsenal of techniques, I would say.
Yeah.
So when utilizing these stuff, I think there's no limits with how much sounds you can produce from this instrument.
During your initial days, when you started building your musical career, how many Kanun artists did you find in your locality? How many performances did you see in your locality of players who play this instrument? And what about the teachers who teach these instruments? Is it very easy to get connected with them, or is it really difficult to find such teachers?
That's a great question, Yash. I think when I started back in, I don't know, 2006 or 7, I used to play cello before that. But then when I started playing the Qanun,
Yeah.
in my village there were none, no players. And in the whole country, I think there was like maybe 7 or 8 like really professional Qanun players. Yeah. And I started alongside, other colleagues of my generation.
Right.
And I like to think that in a way I paved the way for other generations to come, because
Absolutely.
oftentimes as kids, when we choose an instrument, it's because we've seen somebody else play it. And usually this someone else is good at their craft, that it makes you wanna, try to imitate them, right?
Right.
So I think from the time I started till today, like the number has maybe tripled or more. I think probably more. Like there's so many fantastic young Qanun players back home in Palestine specifically.
Right.
And I like to think that I, alongside many of my colleagues of my generation, paved the way for like so many Qanun players. And I think this has to do also with the institutionalization of the Qanun studies.
Yeah.
When you suddenly have like a really good player that starts to teach at a conservatory, then that's gonna create a generation of players. And I would like to mention my teacher, Mahran Murab, from back in Palestine. I think he was one of the pioneers of creating like a whole generation of Qanun players back then.
Absolutely. I think that was a very wonderful point that you spoke, that this instrument, the teaching has to get institutionalized with a couple of music institute. That's actually a very great point. When you went about exploring this genre, you got introduced to it, and now that you're also introduced to the Western contemporary forms of music, or even Indian classical music, what are some of the similarities that you start noticing in it, and then you feel like, okay, I know it in this language, I know that it exists in this genre, it's just with a different name in another genre?
Well, first I have to say that I believe that any artists in any craft must have strong, deep-rooted roots, right? They must have roots in their tradition, right? No matter where you come from. And when you have roots, you have power, you have confidence, you have knowledge. And when you have knowledge, you would let yourself to dive into other oceans of music, right? To explore. If you don't have these roots, it's very easy that you get lost between the different styles. Now, as I said before, I started playing cello before playing Qanun. So I got a glimpse of what Baroque sounds like, of what classical music sounds like, of all the discipline and all the repertoire, right? And I think that was highly, highly beneficial for me as a musician. And I grew up in a musical environment. My mother is a singer. My father used to write a lot of songs.
Right.
And in our house, we used to listen to a lot of international music, whether it's classical music, whether it's Mercedes Sosa from Argentina, whether it's Paco de Lucia from Spain, jazz, so much different stylistic approach. So I feel at home when I listen to this kind of music.
Yeah.
But after the cello, I started playing Qanun, and I was I can't remember, I can't forget the feeling of producing my first ever quarter tone sound, right? Because I felt this belongs to me. This is who I am. I mean, yes, Baroque music is great, but it's not who I am. So I started playing all the Arabic tradition, all of the Makam tradition, from the Levantine to the Egyptian region, And by that time I finished high school, I was really versatile in that tradition. Like I can know most of the repertoire, I can improvise freely with it.
Right.
So when I went to Berklee College of Music, I studied jazz composition, and from there I entered into so many new worlds. And the similarities and the differences that I found, I think between contemporary music, specifically jazz, because jazz has become like a global gate for any kind of genre, right? I think that a lot of similarities lay in the improvisational part. Arabic music is highly improvisational. If you cannot improvise as an Arabic musician, then maybe you need to work more on your craft, right? The other thing is the ornamentation as a form of variation. Whenever you hear John Coltrane playing a jazz standard, they would never go by the lead sheet. They might play it first 5 seconds of it, and then all ornaments all over again, and counterpoint against the melody. And you can find this in Arabic music so much. Like if you ask someone from Egypt to play the Happy Birthday song, they'll probably play something like that. And they would do this so instinctively, you know what I mean?
Wow.
They would never go by the lead sheet, and the reason for that, I think, because it was so much an oral tradition. It was never written down. And I think with contemporary music, the whole call and response between audience and between the performer, you know, whenever someone is improvising and then suddenly someone from the audience says Allah means God.
Yeah.
This is where they reach this kind of ekstasa we call tarab or sultana, where they really are with the musicians. And same in Western music, I think.
So Firas, tell us something about the maker scene of this instrument. Is it really easy to get this instrument, or is it actually a difficult deal? Also, on an average, how much time does it take to create this instrument before you actually start playing it?
I think there is a growing industry in comparison with the years before. I think that there was a generation of Palestinians where a few individuals went to Cremona, Italy, for instance, and studied making of musical instruments like violins and cellos, and they transmitted this craft into making ouds, for instance. Like we have a few oud luthiers in Palestine that make like world-class instruments, and we're yet to see that with the Qanun. We have a few that are humble, I would say, like they're good at their craft, but they haven't really expanded.
Right.
But I think there is a young generation that is digging into that. Internationally, I think the leading countries of Qanun making are Turkey and Egypt, I think, yeah.
Right.
Turkey and Egypt for sure. Right. What I want to say is this might look as an exotic instrument, and this might be an instrument that many people don't know in the West, but in the East it is by no means endangered, you know what I mean? It's still in the essence of Arabic music, in the essence of Turkish music and Armenian music. I want to mention Armenia. Armenia has a great culture of Qanun playing, especially among women and among little children. It might be the only place on earth where you would see like maybe 30 or 40 Qanun players sitting in a Qanun orchestra playing together.
God.
So Qanun is not as extant as many people would think. It's still a very living instrument,
Right.
and it shouldn't be that hard to get it. With nowadays technology, whether it's online or FedEx or this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. As an artist, how many of these would you be having at your home? How many Qanuns would you be purchasing and performing on a kind of regular basis?
Like how many instruments I have?
Yeah.
You mean? Well, I have 3, I'm gonna be honest, and each one is different. One is Egyptian, one is Syrian, and one is Turkish. This one.
Right.
The Syrian was my first one, so it's very dear to me. I would never sell it. I'll always keep it. It was the very first Qanun I ever played. And it was a beginner's Qanun, so it's not by any means world class. Although I'm thinking of investing in it and making it sound better, but I'm gonna keep it. But it's more of a nostalgic kind of instrument. The Egyptian one I bought when I was in Cairo, I think 10 years ago, and it needs some work. While the Turkish one is the one that I mainly use, and there's some logistic reasons to that, because ever since I moved to the States, it was hard to travel with more than one instrument.
Correct.
So I recently am sticking with this one, the Turkish Qanun.
Right.
But I'm thinking that soon enough I'm gonna have a new electric Qanun. And this electric Qanun, I just want to mention that it's by no means gonna alternate the acoustic sound. This is not why I'm getting it, but I think that we should have the option of playing on big stages with heavy rhythm section, with drums and bass and guitars and like electric music, and still sound so bright.
Right.
I'm sick of playing in a large setup and having everyone quiet down so I can be bright. No. Yeah. And because it's a highly acoustic instrument, you can mic it, you can put like good pickups, but when you have such a heavy like rhythm section that has amps and has equalizers and have all these effects, in order to combat this, and in order to be on this level, volume-wise, I think it's good to have the option of having electric Qanun. And many people don't agree to that. For instance, like many people think that this is, distorting the essence of traditional music. And I think it would if we utilize it as an alternative, but it shouldn't if we utilize it as a new sound. Experimenting with new effects, with pedal boards, being able to be so amplified at such a big volume doesn't have to replace the authenticity of the instrument. I mean, look at the guitar.
Absolutely.
The guitar might be the most iconic instrument on earth.
Yeah.
You can't say that the electric guitar replaced acoustic guitar by any means. No, it's just a different new sound.
Absolutely. I guess, that would completely be a new invention to actually work on, keeping the aesthetic and the ethnic element in place. I think, I'm pretty much done with everything that I wanted to ask.
Thank you, brother. This is so great, man. Thank you for having me, and I really salute your initiative of focusing on different artists from all over the world, from different traditions that are playing specific instruments that you want to put the light on. I think this is a fantastic initiative, and keep up the great work, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching the video. If you would like to know more about such musical instruments, new, unique and different forms of music, subscribe to BeatCurry and I'll see you in another video.